मंगळारू 17 तारीख वैशाख कृष्ण प्रतिपदा. सुधा तिनेगर पाची गेल्या आजी द्वितीय दिवसेच भाषणेचा विषय श्री रमण महर्षी विरचित उपदेश सारम आत 5 दोनू सथाय असतले. हे रेफर करूक स्तुती मंजरी पेज 163. सुधा पाची आयच भाषण प्रारंभ कोरका म्हूण विनंती.
So yesterday we started with Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi's Upadesha Saram, which is actually an Upadesha given by Lord Shiva, Bhagwan Shiva, to the rishis who are the Purva Mimamsaka rishis in the Daruka Vana. And I gave you the background and the story also. And here Ramana Maharishi is talking about the various sadhanas that are there, which can be done by a mumukshu, the various sadhanas for this Atma Jnanam, for moksha. For moksha prapti, what are the various sadhanas? That is being dealt with in a very systematic manner. The first half, there are 30 verses, the first half, about 13 to 14 verses, talk about the other sadhanas meant for Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Naischalyam. And they are in the form of, number one, Kayika Karma. We saw that Kayika Karma in the form of yajna, dana, tapas, puja, all that worship that is done with the body, Kayika Karmas. And Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi said, if it is done with an attitude of Karma Yoga, because ultimately every karma has its result, and nobody can be there without doing any karma. Laukika karmas are done, Vaidika karmas are done. There is no way a person can stay without doing any actions or without any karma. But when can karma become a bondage? When it is done as my karma, as I am the doer and I am the enjoyerity, when I get entangled with either the karma or with the karma phala, then it gets me into samsara. But then, if I have to do the same karma, as a swakarma, swadharma, I have a role to play in this world. Ishvara has given me a situation. There is a situation in which I have to play a role. And if I have to play that role, there is no way I can say that karma binds me and stop playing my role. As a parent, as a teacher, whatever it is, I have to play my role. But when does that role playing or when does that action become a bondage? When I think all the time that I am doing it, if I don't do it, who will do it? If it is not done by me, what are the consequences? Yes, I have to think of the consequences. But then, the more and more I get entangled with the doing of the karma, the more and more I get entangled with the karma phala also. As to what should happen, what should not happen, what should be, what should not be. I get actually entangled with the karma and the karma phala. And this is what is the bondage, for which I have to come back again and again and again into the cycles of birth and death. So what do our scriptures say? If the karma has to be done, I have no other option. As born as a human being, I have a free will. God has given me free will. I have to do certain actions, but then all my actions, if I can do it with the attitude of karma yoga, Ishwararpana buddhya karma kartavyam and Ishwara prasada buddhya phalasvikritihi, if that is possible for me to be done, no karma becomes a bondage. That is why Bhagwan Krishna told Arjuna, do even that particular act of killing your own people in war. It is a dharma yuddha, but still then himsa is involved here. But don't do it as your karma, you are doing it. Do it as an offering to me. So whenever any karma is done as karma yoga, that becomes a karma which is free from bondage. Neither the karma nor the karma phala binds a person. And Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi said that initially I use my Ishta Devata. I take my Ishta Devata and offer all my actions to Ishta Devata. But he said, one has to progress and see the entire universe as the manifestation of Ishvara. I have to see Vishwarupa Ishvara, not merely as Ekarupa Ishvara. And all those actions that I do, Kayika Karmas, my puja, my offering, everything should be done with the attitude of offering whatever I do to Vishwarupa, to the entire Jagat, which is nothing but a manifestation of Ishvara. This was Kayika Karma. Then we have got the Vachika Karma or Japa. Japa is repeating the name of the Lord. And Bhagwan said that there is one way of repeating the name of the Lord in the form of sthavas, in the form of stotras and shlokas, kirtana, nama sankirtana, all these are there. But better than that, he said, is to do the japa or avritti of the particular nama. I might have taken a particular diksha for a particular nama avritti. That is to be done with the nama avritti of that particular deity I take, bringing the deity first in the name and form with the dhyana shlokas and then doing japa. In japa also, Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi said that loud japa is of a lower quality, upanshu japa or manda japa is of a higher quality, and also the silent japa, mauna japa, where the mind is just doing the avritti of the Ishta Devata, whatever name has been given, nama avritti, that is actually the best form of japa. So japa was talked about. The third one was talked about in the form of chintanam, in the form of upasana. What is chintanam? Upasana. That is contemplating upon Ishvara, contemplating upon God or Ishvara. How do I contemplate? Initially I start contemplating Ishvara, on Ishvara as my Ishta Devata only. Just like I offered all my actions to my Ishta Devata, I do the japa of Ishta Devata. But ultimately he says that I have to do the upasana in such a way that there should not be a difference between the upasaka, me, and the upasya Devata. I have to see myself as nothing but that upasya Devata. So he said in the 8th verse, which we took yesterday, when we completed the 8th verse, he said, Bheda bhavanat sohamityasau bhavana abhida pavani mata. That was what was talked about in the 8th verse. What does it mean? It means that initially, yes, when I start the upasana, it is not possible for me to think of Bhagwan or the Devata or Ishvara as myself. So initially when I start upasana, it is fine to think of Ishvara as something different from me, something away from me, God as a different one. I am, the devotee, the upasaka, and that is the upasya Devata. There is a distance, time-wise distance, space-wise distance is there between me and the upasya. I will always remain in that trahimam pahimam mode only. I will never go beyond that. So what Ramana Maharishi says is that upasana should progress to an extent where I don't see any bheda between me and the upasya Devata. And he says in the next verse, that is the ultimate bhakti, bhakti ruttama. What is bhakti? When I don't see myself as different from Ishvara, what is there is only Ishvara. What is there is only that God or Ishvara. I am completely as an individual, I am no longer there. This is the total surrender. So he says in this particular aspect of contemplation, when I am contemplating upon Ishvara, initial bheda is enough, but then I should have the attitude where I understand. Initially I may not understand, I am still an upasaka, I am not a jnani. I have not yet attained a stage where I see abheda between me and Ishvara as a result of jnanam. I have not gone to that stage yet. I am still an upasaka, still a bhakta, but then I can have that attitude because I have got the trust, I have got the faith in the Shastra, in the Guru. When the Guru and Shastra say that essentially you are not different from Ishvara, Upadhi bheda may be there. It may be omniscient, omnipresent Ishvara, and I am, very alpa. My knowledge is limited. I am limited. Space-wise, time-wise, body-mind, sense complex-wise, I am limited. But then that Upasya Devata is the limitless Devata. Yes, all those differences are there, but I can have the attitude. What is the attitude? Based on the teachings of the Shastra, I can have the attitude that essentially, in reality, I am not different from that Ishvara. And when I meditate upon Ishvara, even this attitude that I have, that I am not different from Ishvara. This is what is called as Ahangraha Upasana. You might have heard of this Ahangraha Upasana. What is? Ahangraha Upasana means that Upasya Devata of mine, whatever is the Upasya Devata, I take it upon myself. I see myself as the Upasya Devata. That means I am not there anymore. I am completely annihilated. The individual I is not there. In my contemplation, there is only that Devata, whatever may be that Ishta Devata. I am that. See, when we do puja on, see, in a Haridra Bimba, Asmin Bimbe, Avahayami, Ganapati Mavahayami. So I, invite Ganapati to be in that Haridra Bimba. I see that. In the Shivalinga, I, Avahanam I do of a particular Devata, Shiva Devata I do that. Similarly, in this Upasana, Abhida Upasana, which we stopped yesterday, the 8th verse, Abhida means Bheda Rahita Upasana. I don't see any Bheda between me, the Upasaka, and the Upasya Devata. I literally superimpose or I project the Devata upon myself. I see myself as that Devata. Therefore, I no longer see myself as myself. So the individuality is gone. There is only Ishvara left there. This is what is called as Ahangraha Upasana. So Ahangraha Upasana is Abhida Upasana, where there is no Bheda between, that's the highest form of Upasana. That's what Ramana Maharishi says here. So he said in the 8th verse yesterday that Bheda Bhavanat Asau, Bheda Bhavanat Sohamiti Asau. Rather than Bheda Bhavana, So Aham, Saha Aham. I am that. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham, there is no Bheda. Soham iti is that particular Asau. Bhavana Abhida. Abhida Bhavana. Abheda Bhavana. Pavani Mata. That is the highest, that is the most purifying form of Pavani. The one which purifies. And with this kind of a meditation, initially I may not appreciate it. I may not understand the oneness between me and the Upasya Devata. But as I go on doing it, Abhyasa Balat, by this Abhyasa Bala, as I go on doing it, a time comes when that same Devata will send me to a Guru or send a Guru to me, will expose me to this Shastra, and ultimately I will understand what is the real Abheda by knowledge. At this time as an Upasaka, I am not a Jnani still, but this I am still a Bhakta and I want to surrender. And the total surrender or the total prapatti is nothing but Abhida Upasana, where I have the attitude when I am doing the meditation that I am not different from my Upasya Devata. So he says, Bheda Bhavanat Sohamiti Asau Bhavana Abhida Pavani Mata. Then in this kind of an Upasana, what happens? In the 9th verse he says, Bhava Shunya Sad Bhava Susthitihi Bhavana Balat Bhakti Ruttama. So we'll take the next one also, since we are taking two verses to be one. Hritstale Manaha Swasthata Kriya Bhakti Yoga Bodhascha Nishchitam. So what does he say here? He says, Bhava Shunya Sad Bhava Susthitihi. Now what is my understanding? I am an individual. I am different from all other individuals. I am different from the Jagat. I am different from Ishvara. Jiva Jagat Ishvara Bheda is there in me right now. That is what is called as the Bhavana here. What Ramana Maharishi's language is a little different from Shankaracharya, Acharya Shankara's language. Here, there are a lot of implied meanings. We have to understand that directly if we see bhava, what is the meaning of bhava? Existence is also bhava. An emotion is also bhava. How I think a particular vritti is also called as bhava. So here he says, bhava shunya sad bhava sustitihi. Bhava shunya means what? All these ideas of Bheda which I am having at present, that is what is called as my current bhavana. My present bhava is what? I am different from other individuals. The world is different from me. I am an island. I am an individual and island. I have to protect myself from the world. I have to protect myself from other individuals. I have to protect myself from Ishvara also. That is why there is a fear. We have the common term God-fearing. Why should we fear Ishvara? Why should we fear God? What is the need to fear God? Ultimately, all our scriptures say that there is no difference between you and Ishvara. Essentially, we are one consciousness. What is the need to be afraid? Therefore, I am afraid of myself. I am afraid of my body, mind, sense complex. I have no control over it. I have no control over the world. I have no control over Ishvara. Therefore, this bhava is something which is keeping me all the time in bondage. So he says, bhava shunya sadbhava susthitihi. So when I am out of all these bhavanas of difference or bheda between me and the Jagat and Ishvara, then I am abiding in that one Ishvara Swarupa. That Ishvara Swarupa is nothing but myself that I will know with Jnanam. I am not yet a Jnani. I have not yet gone to Jnana Yoga. Bhagwan Maharishi is still in Upasana state only. But then he says that when I have this bhava shunyata, that when I don't see the bheda between me and Ishvara, sadbhava susthitihi, I am abiding in this swarupa of Ishvara as myself. I still don't know it, but I am abiding in this jnana swarupa or this atma swarupa or Ishvara swarupa. I am abiding in that. I am not there. I am completely, there is only one thing. When there are two things, me and Ishvara, then there is a problem. Here there are no two things. When this bhava shunyata is there, I am not there at all. There is only Ishvara. Either at the end of this jnanam, I understand that I am everything. I am everywhere, I am everything. Now as an upasaka, with the bhakti surrender, there is Ishvara everywhere. I am that Ishvara iti, it may take me some time to understand. But this is the meditation that bhava shunya sadbhava susthitihi. Sadbhava, abheda bhava susthitihi, bhavana balad bhakti ruttama. This particular bhava shunya sadbhava susthitihi, abiding during contemplation in the Ishvara Swarupa, where I as an individual has disappeared, only Ishvara is there, there is nothing else. Jagat is Ishvara, I am Ishvara, all the others are, I see Ishvara everywhere. This is Bhakti Ruttama. So he says this kind of an abidance in this meditation, in contemplation, he says it is the ultimate bhakti. That is why in Viveka Chudamani, Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, Swaswarupa avasthanam is bhakti. Means what? Bhakti means abiding in one's own nature is called as bhakti. Here Bhagwan Ramana Maharishi says, abiding in that susthiti where there is no difference between me and my upasya devata, that is called as sadbhava susthitihi. And how does it happen? Bhavana balat bhakti ruttama. Bhavana balat. Here, bhavana balat means this bhavana, abheda bhavana. There are too many bhavas here. Bhava shunya, sadbhava sustitihi, bhavana balat. So we should understand what these three bhavas means. Bhava shunya means the bheda is no longer there. Sadbhava sustitihi, abiding in that sat-rupi bhava, that there is no difference between me and Ishvara. Even that I need not understand. Whatever is there is Ishvara only. I am not there. It is total surrender. Ultimately, what is bhakti? Total surrender where I as an individual jiva has disappeared. So he says this is the total bhava sustitihi and bhavana balat bhakti ruttama. It comes from the strength of my upasana. And as I do this upasana, day by day, it gains strength. And I gain strength out of this upasana, and then it becomes more and more real for me. And when this abheda bhavana becomes very strong, when I abide in the abheda bhavana, then there is an opportunity, there is a chance for me to get into this jnana yoga and understand the real teaching of Vedanta as to what is the meaning of abheda between me and Ishvara. And then, he says that, ninth, 10th we said. Now, where this particular bhavana is happening, where this meditation is happening, where is it happening? He says in the 10th verse, he says, we already read that, Hritstale manaha swasthata kriya bhakti yoga bodhascha nishchitam. So where does this contemplation happen? Right now, when I say I am the body, I am the sense organs, I am the mind, I am the buddhi, I am everything other than this Atma. Anything other than this Atma, everything else, I am hundreds of things other than Atma. But then, where should this meditation happen? Where should this contemplation happen? He says, Hritstale manaha swasthata. That means what? Hritstale. Our Upanishads say that Ishvara, hey Arjuna, Hriddeshe Ishvaraha tishtati. That's what Bhagavad Gita Krishna said. I am available in the Hriddesha of every jiva. I am available as that consciousness in the Hridaya Akasha of every jiva. All our Upanishads talk about that. Where do you avail of this Ishvara? Is Ishvara to be looked for somewhere outside? Yes, the Jagat is the entire manifestation. Jagat is the manifestation of Ishvara. But if I want to experience, if I want to understand that Ishvara, which is the place? Hritstale, in the Hridayakasha, in my own mind, in my Hridaya Guha, I can touch that Ishvara in the form of that constant pulsating awareness. Aham asmi, I am iti. Constantly there is a pulsating I am, and that is nothing but Ishvara. That's why Krishna says, I am available. Don't look for me here and there. Look for me within your heart. I am there within. So he says, this contemplation has to happen where? For the mind to sort of, concentrate. I cannot think of the world. I can take everything. Once I am a jnani and once I am adept at this meditation, I'll be able to see everything as Vishwarupa Ishvara. I see anyone do anything, I'll be able to see that as Vishwarupa Ishvara. But here, I am still a sadhaka. I am still in the process of meditation. So I have to have one particular focus where I meditate upon. Where is that focus? Which part of me is that place where I focus? He says, Hritstale. Because all our scriptures say it is in the Hridayakasha, in the Hridaya, that this particular God or Ishvara or Brahman is Upalabdha. Hridayam is the Upalabdhi sthana of Ishvara, and therefore Hritstale manaha swastata. When the mind is completely involved or centered or focused on the Hritstala where Ishvara is residing. Hritstale, wherever it is, Hridaye. In all the jivas, I am available as that consciousness as an antaratma, as the antaryami. I am available, Bhagavan Krishna says. So that concentration is to be done there. And what are helpful for that? Kriya. Whatever karma I do for Ishvara, that Ekarupa Ishvara is here within Hritsthala. That Vishwarupa Ishvara may be everywhere, but where can I avail of that Vishwarupa Ishvara? Here in my very heart. Therefore, with Kriya, also with Karma, Bhakti means Upasana. This Abhida Bhakti is what is called as Uttama Bhakti. Surrender. What else? I am not there. What is there is only Ishvara. This total surrender is Bhakti Uttama, Uttama Bhakti. So, with Kriya, Kriya means what? Kaika Karma, whatever I have done. Bhakti, with Upasana, whatever I have done. Yoga, whatever yoga practices, Ashtanga Yoga I have practiced, and which I am going to learn now, Bodhaha, the knowledge of this oneness, which I am seeing now as an Upasaka, not understanding it, but out of practice, out of the strength of practice, I am doing it. Like we learn anything, we may not understand why we are doing a certain thing, but by practice again and again and again, we get into that mode of doing something, and later we may understand the significance of it. Shashikalpachi is sitting here. This is how they show us how to, in music. We practice without understanding what I am singing. But a time comes when later on, my buddhi tells me, my heart tells me, this is this is how it should come. So any practice is initially practice. And this upasana also is nothing but practice. And so he says, bodhascha. Through any of these means which Bhagavan has talked about, ultimately it is practice. It is bringing this particular attitude of Abheda in my upasana. Then he goes to the next sadhana, that is pranayama. Pranayama or yoga. Yoga is another. We saw what? Kaika karma we saw. Vachika karma in the form of japa we saw. Manasa karma in the form of contemplation or upasana we saw. Now the fourth sadhana Ramana Maharishi is talking about is to keep the body, mind, sense complex in a conditioned manner where yoga is necessary, Ashtanga Yoga. In this also, Bhagwan Maharishi is not taking the entire thing. He is only taking pranayama. Prana ayama, regulating or disciplining the breath. He says that is very useful for upasana. That is very useful for concentration, contemplation. It is very useful. That is why before you start Gayatri mantra, you do the Gayatri, pranayama is done. Before doing any puja, pranayama is done. Why is it done? It is because with pranayama, I am going to bring that mind into focus, and mind is necessary for all my upasana, jnana, puja, whatever I do. Otherwise, the mind is so balavat, and it is pramati balavat dridam. It is such a, churning thing, and it is so turbulent that the mind can literally take me away from whatever I am doing, whether it is kriya, karma, whether it is japa, whether it is upasana, whatever, it can take me away. Therefore, Ramana Maharishi says, the most important thing for any of these sadhanas is to discipline the mind, and disciplining the mind can be done easily by disciplining the breath. So he says here, in the 11th and 12th verses we'll take, Vayurodhanat liyate manaha jalapakshivad sadhanam chittavayavaschitkriyayutaha shakhayordvayi shakti mulaka. So he says here that one has to silence the mind and keep the mind in a situation where the mind is able to concentrate, and the best way of bringing the mind to a focus is by pranayama. That's what Lord Krishna also talks about in the 6th chapter, in the Dhyana Yoga, before contemplation, before Nididhyasanam. Let there be pranayama so that the mind is brought into some kind of a discipline where the mind is not running here there. So Vayu Rodhana, this pranayama here is called as Vayu Rodhana. This is the term he uses, disciplining the breathing. So we have got the Puraka, Rechaka and Kumbhaka. I'm not going into these various aspects of pranayama, but then the pranayama is done with a certain unit of time, taking certain units of time for Puraka, for Rechaka, for Antaha Kumbhaka, for Bahihi Kumbhaka. Certain ratio of time units are taken, and this particular thing is done. This is okay for a yogi. This is okay for a yogi, and this pranayama also has to be done under the guidance of a guru, proper guru. Otherwise, I will not know how much time units I should spend on Puraka, how much on Rechaka, how much. It is something which I have to be trained by a guru. But then what is the other alternative for people like us who cannot be trained by a guru? It is called as prana vikshanam. Prana vikshanam. It is a very good alternative to pranayama. I just watch the prana, because you give an occupation to the mind. The mind, if it is not occupied, it runs here and there. So I am giving an occupation to the mind. Watch the breath. Watch the breath. It is like that genie which released a ghost, and then that ghost said, you have to keep on giving me some work. If you don't give me any work, then I am going to come and eat you. He tells the one who has activated that lamp, And then this person tells everything, do this, do this, do that. Within a minute, the genie completes everything, and he comes back and says, what next, what next, what next? Now this person is in a fix. Now what to tell? Everything he has done. He's afraid now. Now in next 5 minutes, if you don't tell me what to do, I am going to gobble you up. That's what this ghost or genie which has come out of the lamp says. Now he doesn't know. He goes to his wife and says, now what shall I do? No, this genie is going to really, I thought I can get so many things done, but continuously I have to keep this genie occupied. Otherwise, he is going to really eat me myself. So what shall I do? So the wife said, don't worry, I will take care of this. So she called the genie and said, see, you see a tree there? Till next time I call you, you go up and down the tree. Go up, go down, go up, go down. Keep on going up and down the tree till we call you for the next task. That means what? He kept on doing that. That means a mind is also like this genie. It needs to have something to do. The mind cannot, unless I'm a jnani, unless I'm a yogi par excellence, it is not possible for people like us to keep the mind without being involved in anything. Mind has to be given a job to do, then only it can concentrate. So prana vikshanam is a very, very beautiful alternative to pranayama, where I don't have to go into all these pranayama techniques, I don't have to go into, but the mind just watches the watching the breath. What happens is the mind silences, and this mind is how it is silenced. An example is given here. Vayurodhanat liyate manaha. The mind liyate means it stops, going out frequently, and the turbulence of the mind is brought down. Jala pakshivad rodha sadhanam. A bird which is jumping here and there, flying here and there, but once the bird is caught in a net, it becomes silent. Similarly, Chitta means this mind. It is not chit. Chitta means this mind, and Vayava means this air or prana. Vayu. Prana is Vayu. Therefore, it is called as Vayava. Vayava. Chit kriya yataha. Chit kriya yutaha. Chit kriya yutaha. Chit means chit, the mind. Kriya means the prana shakti is doing all the kriyas, all the actions that are done by the prana maya kosha. We know that it is the prana maya kosha in which all the actions start, all the actions happen. The prana maya kosha uses this body as an instrument and carries on all the actions. Therefore, chitta vayavaha shakhayor dvayi shakti mulaka. Dvayi, shakhayor dvayi. Shakha means there are two branches. The two branches, one is a sattva branch, one is a rajoguna branch. So the sattva guna branch mind and rajoguna branch of vayu or our breath coming out of the same moolam or maya. Then you may ask, what is tamoguna? Tamoguna is nothing but avidya. And avidya is what? it is the Avarana Shakti that does the Avarana and makes me forget. That is going to be talked about in the subsequent sessions of Vivek Chudamani. You will know what is Avarana Shakti, what is Vikshepa Shakti. That's all has been talked about. You will know about it. So, Tamoguna here he is not talking because Tamoguna is the Avarana Shakti. Because of Tamoguna only I have the Karana Sharira. So what is this? The Sukshma Sharira, Vayu and Mana are like the two branches of Shakti Mula, Vayu. That is what Shakti Mula, Maya. Maya's branches they are. Therefore, controlling one. Controlling means what here? Control means managing. There is no question of really forcibly controlling the mind or the prana. It is managing. Disciplining the mind is disciplining prana. Disciplining the prana is disciplining the mind. And then he says here, there are two types of quietening of the mind. In the next verse, the 13th verse and the 14th verse we'll take now. What Bhagavan Maharshi says is, the quietening of the mind can be temporary, or the quietening of the mind can be in the form of resolution of the mind, which is a permanent resolution. He calls it Mano Nasha here, but we have to be very careful. Mano Nasha, Laya means what? Temporarily during pranayama, this particular mind is in a state of silence and quietude and able to do the upasana. This is called as Laya, temporary quietening of the mind. And Bhagavan Maharishi says, Mano Nashaha, for a resolution of the mind totally. Is Mano Nasha possible? It is not possible. You cannot destroy the mind. Nasha, Mano Nasha. So he says that Laya Vinashane Ubhayarodhane Laya Gatam Punar Bhavati No Mritam Prana Bandhanat Lina Manasam Eka Chintanat Nashametyadaha. So in the 13th verse he says, into the Atma, which happens in a Jnani. Now I am not yet a Jnani, therefore I am still an Upasaka, and during Upasana I have done the Pranayama. There is a temporary Laya of the mind. After my Upasana, after my meditation, when I wake up from my meditation and start my activities, I am back to the square one. The mind was temporarily quiet for some time, but the mind continues to disturb me after that, unless I go again into meditation with pranayama, etc. But in a jnani, the mind is in a state of resolution where the mind no longer disturbs this jnani, no longer disturbs this person who is a real, you call him a mukta purusha, a sthita prajna, or a buddha, or a jnani, or a parabhakta. In Bhagavad Gita language, all these are the terms used for a so-called realized human being. Normally in our scriptures, we don't use this realization or realized. We call them sthita prajnas, or we call them buddhas, or we call them parabhaktas, whatever it is. So here, this person who has, for our understanding now, a realized being or a mukta purusha, let us call this mukta purusha. For such a person, the mind is permanently resolved. That means what? The mind is no longer a source of disturbance for him. The mind is there. The jnani uses his mind as an instrument, but the mind no longer uses me as an instrument. What is the difference between us and a jnani? Temporary laya is there of the mind, but most of the time the mind is using us. The mind is holding us by the neck and making us do things. Whereas in vinasha, or what is meant by vinasha here means resolution of the mind into the Atma Swarupa, understanding this mind to be nothing but mithya anatma. A person who has understood this very clearly, a jnani, for such a person, there is a permanent resolution or reabsorption of the mind, and the mind no longer poses any problems any time. Right now for me it is laya, there is no vinasha. But then next step is what? I have to expose myself with, from this verse onwards, Jnana Yoga comes. I have done Kriya, I have taken Chitta Shuddhi by karma, then Japa again for Chitta Shuddhi, then Upasana, meditation, Abhida Upasana for Chitta Naischalyam. And to help me in all these things, I have taken help of Ashtanga Yoga in the form of Pranayama. And at the end of it, when all these sadhanas are done, what am I? I am now prepared. I am a Jnana Yogya. I am an Adhikari for Jnanam. And then I expose myself to Guru Mukhena Shastra Shravanam. Shastra Shravanam, that starts from the 14th verse. So he says, 13th verse, Laya Vinashane Ubhaya Rodhane. In two ways you can control this mind, silence this mind, Laya and Vinasha. Layagatam Punarbhavati Nomritam. Layagatam Manaha Punarbhavati. It comes back again. Temporarily the Laya is there. It comes back again. Nomritam. A dead mind. See, again here we have to be very careful how we interpret these words. You cannot kill the mind. It is not possible. Even a comatose patient has got some mind working. Even a dementia patient has mind some working. So no mritam means he says a destroyed mind, a dead mind. We have to understand very clearly here that the destruction of the mind and death of the mind does not mean it is death or destruction. It means a resolution of the mind where the mind no longer creates a problem. So he says with Laya, the mind can come back again and take hold of me. But with Vinasha, Manonasha, or with the resorption of the mind is understood clearly as Anatma. When this Jnanam takes place. So he says, that is the stage I have to go to, where the mind is totally and once for all resolved, so that the mind no longer becomes the truth for me. When the mind itself is mythified, when I see that the mind as mithya, then I'll be able to see the whole world as mithya. If the mind is the one which makes me feel that the Jagat is Satyam, this individual body, mind, sense complex is Satyam. When I see that the mind itself is resolved, when the reality given to the mind is gone, I have to go to that Jnana Yoga. Therefore he says that Mritam no Mritam, a mind which is resolved for good, never comes back again. So he says, Prana Bandhanat Leena Manasam Eka Chintanat Nashametyadaha. Prana Bandhanat, by using pranayama, temporarily the mind can be silenced. But ultimately, it is only going into this Jnana Yoga and permanently seeing the mind to be resolved, permanently resolving the mind into oneself. That is the ultimate way in which the mind is no longer going to be a problem for me. So next in the 15th verse he says, Nashtamanaso Krishta Krityamasti kim svasthitim yataha drishyavaritam chittamatmanaha chitvadarshanam tatvadarshanam. So he says here, for this jnani, ultimately, how it is going to be here, Raman Maharishi only talks about a jnani here in the 15th verse. He does not say how to get this jnanam. Okay, Raman Maharishi is only talking from the point of a person who has got this jnana. How is it? We have to understand that we have to go and surrender to the Guru and Shastra. Shastra Adhyayanam, Guru Mukhena Shastra Adhyayanam. That is the only way by which I can permanently see the mind to be nothing but mithya. So he says, Nashta Manasa Utkrishta Yoginaha. So this particular Jnana Yogi is an Utkrishta Yogi, even better than an Ashtanga Yogi. Why? Nashta Manasaha. He has permanently resolved the mind. The mind, it becomes his instrument. He is no longer under the hold of the mind. Krityamasti kim swasthitim yataha. What is there to be done? What is there to be attained? What is there to be attained for this person? Everything is done. Kritakrityosmi, he says. Dhanyosmi, kritakrityosmi. Kritakritya, whatever has to be done has been done. There is nothing left to be done. This is the idea of a person with a nashta manasaha. Nashta manasaha means for a person who has resolved the mind forever. This is a jnani. How he became the jnani? Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi is not saying. He's jumped from upasana straight away. He has gone to the jnani. But what we should understand, by the study of the Vedanta, we have to understand Guru Mukhena Vedanta Adhyanam. I have to understand that this is by a process of Jnana Yoga. Shravanam, listening to the Shastra Guru Mukhena for a considerable period of time. Commitment to Shravanam. Mananam, constantly ruminating over whatever I have heard. Nididhyasanam, contemplating on whatever I have heard. This is Jnana Yoga. At the end of a Jnana Yoga, the person who becomes a yogi with this Jnana Yoga is the one who is called as a Nashta Manasaha, for whom the mind has been totally resolved. Such a person, what is there for him to be done? There is nothing remaining for him to be done. And why? Drishya Varitam Chittamatmanaha Tattva Darshanam. Because he has completely withdrawn from the Drishya Prapancha. Drishya Varitam. Drishya Arvitam means what? It is this whole Jagat, this Prapancha, all the other Jivas, they have lost their reality. This Jnani sees the Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara as a Mithya division, and ultimately Chittam Atmanaha, he abides in his own Swarupam. The Jnani, that is why is called as abiding in Atma Swarupa. That is why such a Jnani in the language of Bhagavad Gita is called as the Sthita Prajna or Sthira Prajna. Drishya Varitam, all the Drishyam, the Jagat, the other Jivas, all the objects of perception have been mythified. Mithyakaranam has happened. And Chittam Atmanaha, he abides in his Atma Swarupa. Chitva Darshanam. But that consciousness, this Jagat, this Ishvara also is nothing but a manifestation of this same consciousness. Chitva Darshanam, Tattva Darshanam. So I have understood the Tattvam of this entire universe. The Tattvam of Jiva, the Tattvam of Jagat, the Tattvam of Ishvara. All the three is nothing but this consciousness. Iti, this person has very clearly understood. Now, what is this contemplation of completely resolving the mind? He says in the next two verses, he says 17th and 18th, Manasam tu kim margane krite naiva manasam marga arjavat vrittayastvaham vrittimashritah vrittayo mano vidyaham manaha. Now he says, why are we talking about this mana vicharaha? Why are we talking about this mind, silencing the mind, knowing the mind? What is the nature of the mind? What is mind? Mind is nothing but thoughts arising. I don't see the mind as mind. I see the mind as various thoughts which are arising in the mind. There are various emotions, various thoughts, confusing thoughts, deluding thoughts, doubtful thoughts, nishchaya thoughts. So many thoughts are arising. When I experience this entire universe, I experience the whole universe with the help of thoughts, isn't it? Where else am I experiencing this entire universe? In the mind, in the buddhi, in the form of what? In the form of vrittis, in the form of thoughts. I am experiencing the whole jagat, the whole world in the form of thoughts. And how do I experience it? How do I experience it in my mind? I know this, I see this, I hear this, I taste this, I experience this, I do this. So for all the experiences, there is a basic background of what is called as the aham vritti. I see, I do, I go, I come, I listen, I study. All experiences are experienced as I. So what he says, Manasa Chintanam or Marganam or inquiry into the mind, the self-inquiry, inquiring into the mind is an inquiry on this aham vritti. What is this aham vritti? Ahankara. That is why in Tattva Bodha, when you see, Antakarana is divided into Manaha, Buddhihi, Ahankaraha, Chittaha. Mind is nothing but ahankara. What is the meaning of ahankara? Here we should not take ahankara as pride or arrogance. Ahankara means aham vrittihi. In every experience I have the feeling aham, aham, ahamiti. I have that experience in every experience. This aham vritti, the I thought, the mind is nothing but the I thought. What is I thought? Ahankara. So what is Raman Maharishi saying? With the study or inquiry into the mind. Now he's going into the inquiry into the mind. This is what is self-inquiry. What is self-inquiry? Who am I? What is this I? When I say I, body, mind, sense complex, ahankara is also I. That Sakshi Chaitanya Atma is also I. Who am I out of these two I's ultimately? This body, mind, sense complex, ahankara I is not the original. It is only a reflection. It is only as though. It is an imposter. That is what he says. This ahankara I thought is something which we have to inquire into by inquiring into the mind. Manasam tu kim. What is this mind? Manasam tu kim. What is this mind we are talking about? What is this mind? Margane krite. Margana means inquiry. Inquire into this mind. Find out what this mind is. Marganam krite naiva manasam marga arjavat. There is really nothing called as the mind. I don't see anything called as the mind. What do I see? I come in terms or I come in contact face to face with what? All the thoughts in the mind. Vrittayaha tu aham vrittimashrita. So when I say I am seeing the mind, what am I seeing? I am seeing or I am experiencing all the vrittis of the mind. Vritti means thoughts, the thoughts of the mind. And what is the basic thought which comes in the mind first? Aham. When I wake up in the morning, which is the first thought that comes? I. That is the I thought. I am so and so. I had slept. I got up. Now I have to do so many things. I have so many things lined up. I. This ahankara. This thought is the first thought that comes. So, vrittayaha tu aham vrittimashrita. All the thoughts are based upon this I thought. And this I thought is what is called as the ahankara. Aham iti, this ahankaraha. And Bhagwan Raman Maharishi says, when you inquire into the mind, you are inquiring into this ahankara. Vrittayaha mano vidhi aham manaha. These vrittis of the mind that you are seeing, may you understand those vrittis of the mind to be nothing but the mind. The mind, though yes, the mind may be a particular dravya, it may be there. But mind is nothing but manifesting in the form of thoughts. Hundreds of thoughts may be there. What is the main thought on which all the thoughts are based? Aham vritti, I am. I am the thought, aham vritti, I thought. And that is what is called as ahankara, on which all the other thoughts are based. Therefore, marganam kuryat. Marganam means what? Parimargitavyam. Bhagavad Krishna said, tat padam tat parimargitavyam. Marganam means inquiry. May you do the inquiry into the mind in the form of inquiry on ahankara. On this ahankara, you try to concentrate upon and do chintanam on what is this mind means, what is this ahankara. So I think we'll just read the 19th and 20th verse because 5 minutes earlier I have to stop. And we'll take up the discussion, and finish the entire text on Thursday. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha aipatatyaham nija vicharanam ahaminasha bhajyahamahantaya spurati hritsvayam paramapurnasat. Just to give you a basic thing, when I inquire upon this aham vritti or ahankara, that leads me and shows me the real I. because ahankara is nothing but the reflection of I, the Sakshi Chaitanya Atma. Marganam, or inquiry into this ahankara, ultimately leads me to that which I really am, to that which is my real nature, that which is the Atma. This is what is going to be told in the next few verses. And then he comes to the Mahavakya Vichara. So we have now come to the Jnana Yoga, and till the end of this text it is only how Jnana Yoga is done. Though Bhagwan Maharishi does not say that it is Shravana Manana Nididhyasana Rupena, Guru Mukhena, or with Guru's help, Shastra Adhyayanam, where I have to do the Marganam, inquiry into the self. What is the nature of the mind? What is the nature of body? What is the nature of sense organs? Am I the body? Am I the sense organs? Am I the mind? Am I the buddhi? Am I the ahankara? Am I my ignorance? What am I? In this particular way, Panchakosha Vivekena, Avasthatraya Vivekena, Shariratraya Vivekena, Drik Drishya Vivekena, with all these things, with this kind of an inquiry into the mind, which is called as the Marganam here. So with this, we will stop today's session and we'll meet on Thursday. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Guru Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukham Apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.
धन्यवाद सुधापाची. आता स धोरणू 7 घंटे आका तंगिगल जोडी
निरानंदमानंद अद्वैतपूर्णम परम निर्गुणम निर्विशेषम निरीशम परब्रह्मरूपम गणेशम भजेमा. आदिशंकराचार्यांनी बरयील हा श्लोक सांगतची प्रथम पूजित गणपतीक वंदन करतची कार्यक्रम निर्विघ्न जावो म्हणून प्रार्थना करून आयचे नृत्य कार्यक्रम सुरू करूया. हात तांतू पाश अंकुश मोदक अभयहस्त धरलेले महागणपती दैवत्य आध्यात्म आणि ज्ञानाचे दिकाने आमकां पाश प्रयोग करून आपण व्हरता. अधर्मा वाटेर वतना अंकुश प्रयोग करून धर्माचे वाट दाखयता. मोदक हस्त म्हणलेले जिवनांतू अगत्य जाल्ले संतृप्ती सार्थकता हाडयता. अभयहस्त आमकां केन्नाय रक्षण आनी आशिर्वाद दितची तागेले सानिध्याचे अनुभूती दिता. गणपती ही शक्ती आमगेले मुलाधारांतू स्थित जावन आसचे शक्ती म्हळ्यार मूल आधार. भुंयीक आनी आमकां आसचे मुख्य संबंध कनेक्शन. भूंय म्हळ्यार प्रकृती. ती शक्ती मुलाधारांतावनू सहस्रार चक्राक पावचे अद्भुत क्रिया कुंडलिनी जागरण. शक्ती ज्ञान आणि बुद्धिचातुर्य हाचे अद्भुत संगम ही शक्ती. बृहत आकाराचे लंबोदर म्हूण पुजोवन घेवचे हे देवाक इतलसान मुशक वाहन. अर्थात आमी कितले महान व्यक्तित्वाची जाल्लारी निरहंकारी जावन प्रकृतीचे मुखारी नतमस्तक जावन विरम्र जावन आस्का म्हणल्याचे प्रतीक. असले अद्भुत शक्ती महागणपतीक स्मरण करतची देव गुरु आनी सभिकांक वंदन करतची आयचे नृत्य कार्यक्रम गणेश स्तुती करून सुरू करता ती जान्हवी आनी श्रेयसी सौरभ. जय जय स्वामी जय जय. राग नाटे ताळ आदी ताळ. हाचे संयोजन केला श्री नारायण तीर्थर हांनी. नृत्य संयोजन केला चंपा सौरभ.
जय जय स्वामी जय 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 जित वैरी वक्र प्रचंड 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 जय जय गज मुख जय वक्रतुंड जय जय जित वैरी वक्र प्रचंड जय जय गज मुख जय वक्रतुंड जय जय स्वामी जय 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 स्वामी जय 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 स्वामी स्वामी जय 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 शक्रादिसुरगण सन्नुत चरण शक्रादिसुरगण सन्नुत चरण शक्रादिसुरगण सन्नुत चरण शातकुम्भमणि दिव्याभरण शक्रादिसुरगण सन्नुत चरण शातकुम्भमणि दिव्याभरण धिकृत घन विघ्न तिमिरावरण धिकृत घन विघ्न तिमिरावरण धिकृत घन विघ्न तिमिरावरण धिकृत घन विघ्न तिमिरावरण धीर नारायण तीर्थ सुख गुण धिकृत घन विघ्न तिमिरावरण धीर नारायण तीर्थ सुख गुण जय जय स्वामी जय 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 स्वामी जय 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 स्वामी स्वामी जय 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 जय
बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वम् अरोगताम् अजाड्यं वाक्पुटत्वं च हनुमत् स्मरणात भवेत. श्रेष्ठ भक्तू दासानुदास शक्ती आणि भक्तीचे अनुपम उदाहरण अंजनीपुत्र पवनसुत रामदूत रामबंट हनुमंत. भक्त तागल भक्तीचे पराकाष्ठेक पावलारी कंचे कार्य असाध्य ना म्हूण दाखोवन दिलेले शक्ती. समुद्र लंघन केलें, रामदूत जाल्लो, लंका दहन केलें, संजीविनी पर्वत उक्कोळून हाडले, अणिमा लघिमा गरिमा असले अष्टसिद्धी आशिल्ले हनुमंताक आतां स्मरण करया. हनुमंताले मस्त काणयो आमकां गोत्तस जाल्यार त्या काणयांत आजचे संदेश मनन करूया. आमगेले नित्य जिवनांतू अनुसरण करूया. खंय शक्ती प्रयोग करका, खंय बुद्धीचे उपयोग करका, ज्ञानी जावन निरहंकारी जावचे, शक्तिवंत जावन विनम्र जावचे, केलेल असाध्य काम पुराई भक्तीने रामाले चरणी अर्पण करचे. करईल पुराई तुमची देवा, हांव निमित्त मात्र म्हणल तसले पवनपुत्राक आमगेले कोटी कोटी प्रणाम. असले एक सन्निवेशू रामदूत जावन रावणाले लंकानगरी पावलो. रावणाल आस्थानांतू ताका एक वानरू रामागल दूत जावन आयला म्हणून मस्त अपहास्य करता ती. तावळी एक अद्भुत दूत जावन रामाल परमभक्त जावन आपणाले रायाले स्थानमान कशी रक्षण करता म्हणल एक सान प्रसंग. हांगा अभिनय कोण दाखयता? जान्हवी सर. प्रभू रामचंद्र के दूता.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज, निज मन मुकुर सुधार, बरणौ रघुवर बिमल यश, जो प्रभु रामचंद्र के दूता हनुमंता आंजनेय, प्रभु रामचंद्र के दूता हनुमंता आंजनेय, हे पवन पुत्र हनुमंता बल भीमा आंजनेय, हे पवन पुत्र हनुमंता बल भीमा आंजनेय, बल भीमा आंजनेय.
आवसुगल मोका ಚೆರಡು ಗೋಪಿಕಾಂಗ್ ತ್ರಾಸದಿತ್ತಲೋ ಪುಂಡೋ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಗೋವಳು ಅದ್ಭುತ ಬಾನ್ಸುರಿ ವಾದಕು ಸುಲಲಿತ ಆಕರ್ಷಕ ನೃತ್ಯಗಾರು ಅಸಂಖ್ಯಾತ ಗೋಪಿಕಾಂಗલો પ્રેમી ચતુર રાજતાંત્રિક પ્રતિષ્ઠાપક સ્ટેટ્સમન કિંગમેકર रणरंगांतू असामान्य सारथी आमगल जीवनांतू एवंच प्रति एक कष्ट संदिग्ध परिस्थिती प्रश्नेक उत्तर दिल्ललो अर्जुनाक गीतोपदेश केल्लो जीवनाचे विविध हंतांतू परिपूर्णता दाखोवन दिल्लो कृष्णागल प्रभाव आमगल शास्त्रीय नृत्य परंपरेंतू पळयल्यारी विशेष जावन आसा कृष्णलीला म्हणलेले अभिनयांत येवंच तसले एक विस्तार आनी विस्तृत अंग ते भरतनाट्य कथकळी कुचुपुडी कथक आनी सत्तरीय अशी प्रति नृत्य प्रकारांतू आपणाले छाप घाल्या मधुर भक्तिभाव रासलीला काल्यमर्दन अशी कृष्णाले जीवनाचे प्रतिहंत विविध रितीने अभिनयाचे मूलक प्रस्तुत करचे सौंदर्य अवर्णनीय तसले एक संदर्भ आजी श्रेयसी नृत्या मूलक प्रस्तुत करतस गोपिका कृष्णाल आगमनाक राखतस बांसुरीचे सुमधुर संगीत आयकूंच आतुर कृष्णाल सांगाती नृत्य करच कातुर जलक्रीड खेळचे संभ्रम एक मधुर भक्ती भावाचे वातावरण आमकां पळोवचा मेळटा आड पोगोणा बारो रंगा या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः. प्रति एक मनुष्याल भितर आसचे असुरगुण नाश करूक शक्ती स्वरूपिणी जाल्ले मातृशक्तील आराधना पूजा स्मरण अति अगत्य. त्रिशूलधारिणी ती देवी. त्रिशूलाचे तीन शूल ज्ञान प्रीती आणि क्रियेचे प्रतीक जावन आसती. तिगले अभयहस्त आमचेर आसल्यारी हे तिन्ही आमकां प्राप्त जाता. देवीने नाना रूप घेवन चंडमुंड शुंभ निशुंभ धूम्रलोचन तसले भयंकर राक्षसांक नाश केल्या. सामान्य मनुष्याल भितरी आसचे असुरीय शक्ती हे राक्षसांगल प्रतीक जावन आसा. शुंभ स्वयं अनुमान आपणाल उंच संशय. निशुंभ विंगडाल उंच संशय. धूम्रलोचन दृष्टिमुखारी धुवर भरलेलो म्हळ्यारी अस्पष्ट दृष्टिकोन आशिल्लो. चंड शिरमात्र आसतलो म्हळ्यारी अहंकारी क्रियाशक्ती नातिलो. मुंड देह आस जाल्यारी संवहन शक्ती नातिलो कम्युनिकेशन. असले असुरगुण मनुष्याल भितर आससरी तागले अभिवृद्धी श्रेयसू जायना. ज्ञान प्रीती आणि क्रियाशक्ती म्हणलेले त्रिशूल रूपारी अवगुण नाश करून उद्धार करतली ही महाशक्ती. अशी नवदुर्गांक स्मरण करतची महिषासुरमर्दिनी स्तोत्राक नृत्य करतस जान्हवी.
प्रथमं शैलपुत्री च द्वितीयं ब्रह्मचारिणी तृतीयं चन्द्रघण्टेति कूष्माण्डेति चतुर्थकम् पञ्चमं स्कन्दमातेति षष्ठं कात्यायनीति च सप्तमं कालरात्रीति महागौरीति चाष्टमम् नवमं सिद्धिदात्री च नवदुर्गाः प्रकीर्तिताः उक्तान्येतानि नामानि ब्रह्मणैव महात्मना.
नन्दितमेदिनि विश्वविनोदिनि नन्दनुते गिरिवरविन्ध्यशिरोधिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते भगवति हेशिति कण्ठकुटुम्बिनि भूरि कुटुम्बिनि भूरि कृते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते सुरवरवर्षिणि दुर्धरधर्षिणि दुर्मुखमर्षिणि हर्षरते त्रिभुवनपोषिणि शङ्करतोषिणि कल्मषमोषिणि घोषरते तनुजनिरोषिणि दिविसुतरोषिणि दुर्मदशोषिणि सिन्धुसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते अयि जगदम्ब मदम्ब कदम्ब वनप्रियवासिनि हासरते शिखरि शिरोमणि तुङ्ग हिमालय शृङ्गनिजालय मध्यगते मधु मधुरे मधुकैटभगञ्जिनि कैटभभञ्जिनि रासरते शतखण्डविखण्डितरुण्डवितुण्डितशुण्डगजाधिपते रिपुगजगण्डविदारणचण्डपराक्रमशुण्डमृगाधिपते निजभुजदण्डनिपातितखण्डविपातितमुण्डभटाधिपते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते ऐरणदुर्मदशत्रुवधोदितदुर्धर निर्जर शक्तिभृते चतुरविचारधुरेण महाशिवदूतकृत प्रमथाधिपते दुरितदुरीह दुराशय दुर्मतिदानवदूतकृतान्तमते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते शरणागत वैरिवधूवर वीरपराभयदायकरे त्रिभुवनमस्तकशूल विरोधि शिरोधि कृतामलशूलकरे दुमिदुमितामर दुन्दुभिनादमहो मुखरीकृततिग्मकरे जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते मयि दीनदयालुतया कृपयैव त्वया भवितव्यमुमे मयि जगतो जननी कृपयासि यथासि तथानुमितासि रते यदुचितमत्र भवत्युररीकुरुता दुरुतापमपाकुरुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते
आंगिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववा आहार्यं चंद्रतारादितं वंदे सात्विकं शिवम. कोणाल देहाचे चलनची है ब्रह्मांड की, कोणाल भासची ब्रह्मांडाचे भासकी, चंद्र नक्षत्र तगल आभरण तसले सात्विक शिवाक हांव नमन करता. नटराज नृत्य साधकांगल रायू, सृष्टी स्थिती संहार तीरभाव इल्यूशन अनुग्रह हे 5 क्रियेचे प्रातिनिध्य करता. नटराजाल हातांतू आसचे डमरू ब्रह्मांडाचे प्रप्रथम रचन जाल्ले शब्दाचे प्रतीक. अग्नी लय नाश भ्रमनाश कोरनू शुद्धीकरण करचे प्रतीक. अभयहस्त रक्षण करचे, तशीची गजहस्त विमोचन आणि मोक्षाचे प्रतीक. माक्षियासचे प्रभामंडळ ब्रह्मांडाचे प्रतीक. पाया मुळाक एक कुब्ज राक्षस अपस्माराक मस्तून धरल्या. अज्ञानाचे प्रतीक जाल्ले त्या राक्षसाक अमरत्व प्राप्ती आस. तशी जावन नटराजू सदा सर्वदा आपणाल पाया मुळांतू ताक मस्तून दवन घेता. नटराजाले दोन्ही दोळे सूर्य आणि चंद्राले प्रतीक. तिन्ही दोळो ज्ञान आणि सूक्ष्म दृष्टीच प्रतीक. दाव पाय उक्कोळणू मोक्षाचे प्रतीक जावन राबला आणि एक उजव पायारी तूकबद्ध जावन राबला. हे इच्छाशक्ती आत्मसंयम असलारी असाध्य जाल्ले खंयचेय ना मळलाचे प्रतीक. आजी आमगल आराध्य देवू भवानी शंकराक स्मरण करताची नटेश कौतुकम प्रस्तुत करता जान्हवी सौरभ.
ತಿರಿ ಕುಡುತ ದಿಮಿತ ರೀತ ರೀತ ಕಿಣನಕ ತದೀಂ ತದೀಂ ದೀಂ ತಾ
ಧೀಂ ಧೀಂ ತಕ್ಕ ಧಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಮ್ಮಿತ್ತ ಧಿಮ್ಮಿತ್ತ ತಕ್ಕ ತರಿಕುಡು ತದ್ಧಿಮ್ಮಿತ್ತ ರಿತ್ತ ರಿತ್ತ ಕಿಣ್ಣ ನಕ್ಕ ತದ್ಧೀಂ ತದ್ಧೀಂ ಧೀಂ ತಾಂ
ಧೀಂ ದೀಂ ತಕ ಧಿಮಿ ಧಿಮಿತ ಧಿಮಿತ ತಕ ತರಿಕುಡು ತದ್ದಿಮಿತ ರೀತ ರೀತ ಕಿಣನಕ ತದೀಂ ತದೀಂ ದೀಂ ತಾ
ಘಟ್ಟವನ ಮುನಿ ಜನ ಸಕಲ ಸುರಾಸುರ ಸನ್ನುತ ಪಾದ ಕಿಂಕಿಣಿ ಝಂ ಝಂ ಜಣ 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 ನೂಪುರ ಲಯ ಗತಿ ಗಣ 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 ವಿಧಿ ಹರಿ ಸೇವಿತ ತಕ್ಕುಡು ದಿಕ್ಕುಡು ತಕ ತರಿ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ತಾಂ ತ
ತಟವನ ಮುನಿ ಜನ ಸಕಲ ಸುರಾಸುರ ಸಂಯುತ ಪಾದ ಕಿಂಕಿಣಿ ಝಂ ಝಂ ಜನ 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 ನೂಪುರ ಲಯ ಗತಿ ಗಣ 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 ವಿಧಿ ಹರಿ ಸೇವಿತ ಕಕ್ಕುಡು ದಿಕ್ಕುಡು ತಗತರಿ ಕಿಡ ತಗತಾಂ ತತ್ತ
ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ದಿರಿ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ತಾಂಡವಿ ಗಂಬರ ದಿಕ್ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ದಿರಿ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ವ್ಯಾಘ್ರ ಚರ್ಮಧರ ತೊಂ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ತೊಣ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ತ್ರಿಶೂಲಧರ ನಂ ಕಿಟ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ನಕ ತರಿ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ನಂದಿ ವಾಹನ
ತಕ್ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ತರಿ ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ತಾಂಡವಿ ಗಂಬರ ದಿಕ್ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ಧಿಮಿ ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ವ್ಯಾಘ್ರ ಚರ್ಮಧರ ತೊಂ ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ತೊಣ ಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ತ್ರಿಶೂಲಧರ ನಂಕಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ನನ ಗಿಡ ಗಿಡ ತಗ ನಂದಿ ವಾಹನ
ಪಾದಯೋಗ ಪ್ರಿಯ ಝಕಣಂ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ಝಕಣಂ ಕಿಟ ತಕ ತುಕ ತಕ ತಕ್ ತಕ ತೈ ಜಯ 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 ಶಶಿ ರವಿ ಭೂಷಣ ರೂಪ ಭಯಂಕರ ದಾಮರುಗ ಹಸ್ತ ತೃತೀಯ ಸಹಸ್ರ ದೀಕ್ಷಿತ ನಾದ ನಟೇಶ ಕೌತ್ವಂ
ನಾದಯೋಗ ಪ್ರಿಯ ಜಗಣಂ ಕಿಡದಗ ಜಗಣಂ ಕಿಡದಗ ತುಕ ತಗ ತತ್ತಾಂ ಜಯ 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 ಶಶಿ ರವಿ ಭೂಷಿತ ರೂಪ ಭಯಂಕರ ಧಮರುಗ ಹಸ್ತ ತೃತೀಯ ಸಹಸ್ರ ದೀಕ್ಷಿತ ನಾಥ ನಟೇಶ ಕೌತ್ವಂ ತಗ ತಗ ತಾಂ ದಿಗಿ ದಿಗಿ ತೈ ತಕ್ಕುದಿ ಕುತ ಕಿಟ ತೊಂ ಗಿಡ ಗಿಡದ ಗಿಡ ಗಿಡದಗ ತ ತಾಂ ತ ತಾಂ ತ ತಾಂ
कार्यक्रमाचे कडे भाग जावन सर्वमंगलम ह्या श्लोकाक नृत्य करतची जगतांतू मंगलता येवो म्हणून प्रार्थना करतची जगताच्या प्रति एक अंशांतू शांती भावैक्यता मंगलता प्रेम सौहार्दता आसो म्हणल्यार प्रार्थना तशीची गुरु चरणीय भवानी शंकरालय पदकमलांतू नतमस्तक जावनू आयचे नृत्य सेवा समर्पण करताती. आमक असले अद्भुत अवकाश दिवनू करताडन कोरनू आशीर्वाद कोरनू प्रोत्साह दिलल तुंगल तसले सहृदयी प्रेक्षकांक आमगले अनंतानंत वंदन.
भूमिमङ्गलम् उदकमङ्गलम् अग्निमङ्गलम् वायुमङ्गलम् गगनमङ्गलम् सूर्यमङ्गलम् चन्द्रमङ्गलम् जगत्मङ्गलम् जीवमङ्गलम् देहमङ्गलम् मनोमङ्गलम् आत्ममङ्गलं सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु 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 सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु 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 सर्वमङ्गलं भवतु भवतु भवतु.
वा वा श्रेयसी आणि जान्हवी तुमगल नृत्य पळोवन इतली खुशी जाली आमकां की ताळयोची राबना ती मन येना की हे कार्यक्रम हांग बंद करका म्हणून. तुमगेले आयज कार्यक्रम गुरुंगलो आनी भवानी शंकर देवागल चरणी अर्पण जावन आसा. मुखार अशीची आनी मस्त नृत्य सेवा हांग जावंका म्हूण आमी गुरूंक गुरु परंपरेक आनी भवानी शंकर देवा लागीं प्रार्थना करता ती. फायच कार्यक्रम एक पंत अपस सांगता दयकोन आयकया ती. फाई 18 तारीख बुधवारू वैशाख कृष्ण तृतीया सकाळी 6 घंटेरी सुप्रभातम 6:30 धोरनू अथर्व शीर्ष होम सूर जातले. 9:30 घंटेरी पूर्णाहुती 10 घंटेरी